I try to disassociate the person from like what they did.
Yeah.
Only,
I feel like
and I can only do it to a certain extent. But
Yeah, I feel like
I
it's too
mean,
fresh right now.
I mean, I know when I
Yeah.
look at people, like anyone's susceptible to make mistakes. So I try not to personally like put that high of a pedestal on any person.
Yeah.
I am a fan of people's work, but people in general, like as a person, I wouldn't obsess over anyone. I wouldn't like
Yeah.
as far as like
Yeah, you don't like fanboy over people. Like you don't allow people like what they do.
because anyone's susceptible to
As long as
do
they-
something crazy.
As long as they make the music you like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I still watch Kevin Spacey movies.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I still think Louis C.K. is funny.
I still like. It's tough because it's like, do you.
Louis C.K. was a hard one for me. I felt like that came out of nowhere. He was just
I don't think.
Yeah, he's been
Just
masturbating.
because he always talks about
Doesn't
I
he-
masturbate every.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I was just like, oh, I didn't think he would. He just seemed like a guy who was so open about stuff like that he wouldn't need to
Do it in
be
front of a girl.
Yeah,
and
to
make-
be like a creepy pervert about it.
Well,
Maybe he thought
and
since he
then-
was so open about it and everyone thought it was funny, he's like, oh, okay, this is okay.
Well, he was open about the discussion of it, but not necessarily saying like,
What he
"Yo,
was
so I was
Yeah.
talking on the phone, masturbating to whoever it may be while I was talking to them." Like he's never done that.
My question is.
Now we gotta
since
think about-
We're in this weird.
Everything we've ever
Lou-
watched or listened to.
Yeah, of like, okay, everyone has done bad things. Some a lot really bad. Some, like it just didn't age well bad. Like kind of like the James Gunn and Kevin Hart type stuff, where it's like, it's not great, but it just didn't like age. Like they kind of moved past it. It's from a long time ago, and then some people have done horrible things. Is there a way that like Louis C.K. could come back and we would all accept him with open arms?
Celebrity
Well, he already-
death match, real life. The winner gets a full like redo. We forget everything you ever done, but you have to take out at least another bad celebrity. We can't have all bad celebrities. You got to at least take out one.
Like a
I'm
celebrity
not
Punisher.
forgiving George Zimmerman.
He's not a
He's
celebrity.
not a celebrity.
He kind of became a celebrity
No,
after the court
he's,
case.
he's infamous. He
Infamous.
goes in
Yeah.
the
Bad
wall.
celebrity.
Okay,
the Hall
we're
of
only
infamy.
we're only speaking of celebrities.
People who have
Okay.
made stuff that people have enjoyed.
Okay, that's different.
Like-
Until
All right,
George
all right, okay.
Zimmerman comes out with a stand-up or an
Yeah.
album.
Yeah, George Zimmerman didn't create art.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like
okay,
was in
okay,
the
okay.
he became famous because he did something bad. Like that would be like Ted Bundy's a celebrity.
That's a different.
But with
that's a different
him,
death
I guess
match with,
not even definitely what he did, but then afterwards, like being kind of bragging about it, like not fan.
Well, yeah. But is there a way you can move forward and like get an apology if what you did wasn't that bad? Like Louis C.K. did some nasty stuff, but it wasn't like he didn't commit like assault on someone. He
Yeah.
did
That we know
gross,
of.
inappropriate things, no questioning, or like Kevin Hart who posted really insensitive tweets. It's like, is there a way for them to move on? And then us as a society, what do we do about the stuff that we like that they did? Like,
Yeah, because
you
they try
know-
to take away or discredit someone after they have done something bad. Like
Yeah,
it's
it'll
like
be. They've been going back on like old tweets from people like.
That's the new
when,
thing,
Like,
like-
a lot of athletes get it. They're like, oh, when you were 16, you tweeted this, and a lot of it's like song lyrics. But they're like, oh, this is really, you know.
I feel
I
like
think the
it's
first
only
step.
gonna get worse.
The
with
fir-
that.
yeah, I do too. The first step is probably to like apologize and to know that what you did was wrong. Mm-hmm. Or to admit to
That's
it.
what
but
Kevin Hart tried to do, and then they still took it.
But I
Yeah.
also think
There's
like,
just some people that
he
know.
kind of like was weird about like it took him.
because he apologized the first time around, and that was like when he first got his first big buzz. Because all this came out when Kevin Hart wasn't a household name. Then he became a household name. Everybody went back to these old tweets. He did the right thing, the public apology. He did it all. Then now he's Kevin Hart. Everybody loves Kevin Hart.
They're just trying to resurface it.
And then the Grammys came around. They're like, hey, we want you to host it. And then people went all the way back and tried to get him to apologize. It's like, I'm not going to apologize
You don't have-
twice.
yeah.
Like, y'all all
You don't have to keep on resurfacing
that
it
we
like
were
that.
going to co-sign on the Kevin Hart brand. Y'all forgave
Yeah.
me. I've already made all these. I made Jumanji. Y'all are not going to make me apologize.
But
Like, it's
is-
over with.
Yeah.
An apology good enough? And I'm not saying like I'm not
But
arguing
it also,
I'm more
like,
questioning.
yeah, a lot
like,
of his stuff, though, was like, it was a lot of words that turn off your computer or give yourself a day, get over it. Like, he wasn't, like, personally.
Well,
When
he
it
was
when it
just-
comes to something that you say, like if
Yeah.
you personally affected someone, what you did was
yeah,
it
like,
affected someone. I feel
for
like you can
days.
apologize and then do something for that person, and maybe they can accept you, and then maybe in turn everyone else around who doesn't even have anything to do with it may eventually accept you. But
like
I don't know how you would like forever get past something if like I'm trying to think of a way for a celebrity to get past a situation.
because the only thing
Because
I
if it's
can-
gonna be something like that, it's gonna keep on resurfacing.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, let's say the Kevin Hart thing where he said like a lot of homophobic slurs, right?
Yeah.
He goes, first apology coming up, or like I'm trying to think of a scenario. Let's say one actor wrote homophobic slurs back in the day. It comes up. I think you immediately apologize. Don't do the whole like immediately apologize and then start doing something for that group of people, so then if it does resurface you can be like, hey, like 2 years later it resurfaces again and it's like, okay, yes, we dealt with this problem, I'm still sorry for it, but look at all these things I did for the
I
gay
feel like
community to make amends. I helped them out. I was like,
Only if it's genuine. I feel
No,
like
no,
people
and
would
I
take
think-
it to an extent just for the sake of like.
well, I think it has to be like, that's the other thing, it has to be genuine, but I think it's more like, okay, yeah, sure, you're sorry, but you helped push like that you helped you weren't helping any causes, and then you just being sorry about it is like you kind of just are saying sorry because it came out now, and it's like I think it's more like, what are you going to do to help? What
feel
are you
like-
going to do to stop like
I feel like a lot of people, when they make up their mind, that's it. Like they'll try to justify, or they'll try to say something like, "Oh, now he's doing too much. He's being fake." Most people have, once they kind of made their decision or their opinion, they kind of stick with it. So I'm not sure if you can change the mindset of certain people. Like you can't
But I
turn
think
over everyone.
this problem's only going to get a lot worse because now we're getting to the point where people that are becoming celebrities now have social media their
Entire
life instead of like, oh, I started getting on Twitter when I was like 34. Now it's, oh, I grew up. I had a Twitter account in 4th grade.
Imagine the crazy things teenage Donald Trump probably would have tweeted.
Oh yeah, and that's my thing. Like now we got to get to the point where it's like, okay, how do we address this?
Here's the thing, like a lot of these people, like if there was a way to record like Xbox Live chats,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
nobody would be pointing fingers at anybody because he'd be like, oh well, you're complaining about this, but you said this, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yo, when
it
online community for gaming, it's the Wild Wild West.
it's
yo.
just online in general.
I've
Whenever
heard
there's
people
no
say the
face,
most obscene things
Yeah.
I've ever heard of.
yeah,
stuff that little 12-year-old would never dare say to your
No.
face. But now he's across the world. He's like, oh yeah, let me tell you
Some of the most
about yourself.
most
Let me drop some
vulgar.
N-words, some
Yeah.
F-words, some B-words, some
Everything.
C-words.
Listen here, you flipping ninja biscuit.
Yeah, it's like, but they would never go up to someone. But yeah, and also I feel like that's another issue because now you have a generation of kids who are growing up where, hey, I can say whatever I want. There's no
Yeah.
we were 12. We didn't really have online games. If I walked up to someone and dropped the C word to a woman, there would be repercussions
Yeah.
like for that action, and I would
Which
learn.
C-word?
My mom used to beat the shit out of me just for telling her someone I hate them.
Yeah, and now you have kids who can go online, say whatever they want, and it's like, oh, I didn't get in trouble. Oh, I wrote on Twitter to a celebrity, and I didn't get in trouble when I called them like something really bad or like threatened them, and it's like now we're gonna have a whole generation of kids that grew up with this. Oh, there's no repercussions if I'm an asshole,
Yeah.
and I'm actually very curious how that's gonna.
Somebody
play out.
retweeted it because they thought it was funny.
Because like we have so many celebrities, mainly women. I want to say, yeah, mostly it's a lot of women who have to delete their Twitters or Instagrams because they get flooded with threats or like, I'm gonna rape you, I'm gonna like, you're a dumb bitch, like all this stuff, and it's like they have to delete it because literally their phone's getting blown up with the most hateful stuff, and it's
Yeah.
probably all children for the most part,
Yeah.
or like I doubt there's some like 34-year-old guy who's like, you know what.
Nah, there's 34-year-olds out there.
There are, but there's
Yeah,
not
there
as.
are, but
it's
I
the
don't think it's the majority. Where like,
Oh no, it's definitely not. Like this younger generation is gonna. It's a lot crazy.
Yeah, and they don't. Yeah, they don't care. They don't have a reputation. They don't have like a family to upkeep. So they're
Yeah.
just like, they don't have no like like you said, repercussions if what they do is wrong. So it's like,
Would
a lot of internet thugs.
I know there's
Yeah.
some companies and businesses do it, but would you be all right with a company doing like a social media check on new hires, like on applicants to use that to judge whether or not to hire
How
people?
far back can they go?
Just look at your social media.
they do.
So if
that.
you like, yeah, I know there's some that do that, but like if say like you tweet some like hateful things and stuff like. That
yeah,
kind of stuff, like-
I guess.
But what if that stuff, like I said, like say you're 25,
Yeah, I don't think
and
it
they're
should
going
be
to
that far
tweets that were
back.
back when you were 12, 14, 14.
But in that case,
Back
if
when
I
I was
know that's
listening
Because
to
that's
Lil Wayne.
it's essentially the same thing that they just did to Kevin Hart too.
it just wasn't like the Oscars didn't do it.
Yeah.
It was just a random guy
Yeah.
who didn't like him did. But also, I feel like the worst thing, and I said this with the James Gunn thing, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, is the worst thing that they did was they fired him because now it was just one dude. It wasn't like a big group of people. It was, hey, I can go back and ruin someone's life. I'm a regular guy who's not famous, this and that, and I have the ability to literally make a multi-billion-dollar, almost $1 trillion company do what I want because I posted one screenshot of something a guy said. And the Oscars, it's like, I don't know how all that resurfaced. I don't know if it was just a guy or a bunch of people, but it was like, now you're like basically feeding it because now it's just going to keep on going like, oh, cool, we can do this? Like,
Yeah.
okay. And it's like, I think it kind of really started with the Roseanne thing, but I feel like the Roseanne thing was definitely a different story because she
Actively doing it.
she
at the
literally
time.
posted it that day and she was directing it to a person, saying
Yeah.
something racist to a specific person. It wasn't like, we looked back and Roseanne had tweets from 15 years ago or however long Twitter's. And there were tweets that people found after the fact.
Yeah.
But it was like, the thing that got her fired was she did something that day.
To a particular individual.
With the Kevin Hart and the James Gunn thing, that was things that were found literally like 2007, almost like over a decade ago. So it was like, it's not like they're posting that stuff now. And it's like, I don't know, it's this weird thing that we're in and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And I feel like we all have to go, how do we do this?
Just take a few steps back from the social media.
Yeah.
But it's
As
like,
a
how
society,
do
I
we
feel
handle, like, because it's like, I feel like as a society, we have definitely grown and progressed in how we treat
Yeah.
other people and stuff. But it wasn't always like that, where, so, like, for example, I'm watching 30 Rock, rewatching it, and that came out 2006. And there's some jokes about, like, race and gender and, like, gays and stuff where I'm like,
It wouldn't fly
that
today.
wouldn't fly now. And I'm like, this isn't that old of a show. This is like, and it's nothing like serious, but it's like, yeah, we wouldn't do like,
Yeah,
you
they wouldn't
you
approve
would
that
never
now.
hear someone like making a joke like that. And it's like, yeah, I feel like, how do we address like, okay, yeah, there was a different time. How do we forgive? Like, how do we understand? Like, yeah, maybe someone said some things that weren't great. They maybe told a joke that wasn't great back when it was a little more acceptable. So how are we holding them to the standards now for something they did back?
I think you have to use a little bit more context on certain things because it's like if it's part of a joke and or something like, it's like
Well, I also agree.
it's not obviously how they feel, but it's like I don't know.
You're just saying
you have to
something
take it in.
for the sake of saying it,
Yeah. Or you're just
Like-
trying to get a reaction out of people.
trying to
you're,
get
you're a dick.
attention. Yeah.
I also have another question. Why? Because we kind of touched on it a little bit.
Results. The first is from Cora.
Sorry.
What the fuck?
What are you researching?
Why we give say somebody like a tweet resurfaces from when they were a teenager. We're quicker to forgive them because everyone just says, oh, they were a child, they were only 16 17 years old when they did this. They've obviously they could change. But when it's somebody who's older, we don't give them that benefit of the doubt. It's like, no, you were in your 20s. There's no way you could have changed from that.
Yeah.
And we also do that with like the justice system too. Like juveniles, like
Yeah.
They'll get off for
They
doing
get
something
off.
really bad because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, they're a kid.
yeah, they're a kid. We can what is it? It's rehabilitate them
Yeah, like,
instead of
are we gonna hold them? Like I think a judge said, like,
Yeah,
are we gonna hold this guy to a standard for 15 minutes of being dumb? That's gonna ruin the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But that was involving a rape too.
yeah,
That was Trevor.
yeah. The
forget
kid
his
from
name.
California, the swimmer or whatever, right?
Oh, the behind the dumpster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he was like,
that
"Oh, we're
piece
gonna
of
hold him
shit.
to a standard
Yeah.
for 15 minutes of
Yeah.
being dumb," and it's like that's a different story. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
and
like,
it's not a total black and white answer
Yeah.
because there are situations with him where he raped a girl behind a dumpster, and
Yeah.
he was young, but he did
he also
something
knows
really
that is
bad.
really bad.
But
yeah.
then like someone who's 16 or the same age, I don't even know how old he was, like 20. Let's just say 19. There's someone that 19 who writes a dumb joke on Twitter. That's not the same standard.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the kid who wrote a dumb joke that wasn't referencing to anyone specific, yeah, that should be forgiven 20 years from now. But the kid who did a horrific crime should not, because that's a crime.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, it's not always black and white. I feel like for the most part, though, I agree with it because children are
Yeah.
more products of their environment.
they-
and you haven't yet had the enough experience to like really understand everything. So
Yeah, like you don't. I feel like you haven't gone out in the world. You haven't like experienced things. Like growing up with my parents, like they were always real well off, and I was kind of like a little spoiled kid. And then when I move out and have to fend for myself, and I'm never been eating mayonnaise sandwiches and that kind of thing, it changes your views.
yeah,
But
your
I'm like,
interpretation of life is different.
at what point do we stop giving people that kind of luxury of, oh well, you were younger then, now like we cut off, like nope, you were old enough, now there's no way we're gonna give you.
Yeah, I think everything is a case by case scenario.
Yeah.
It's not like always black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the severity of what you did
Yeah.
to your age. If you got drunk and you accidentally like hit somebody, like got into a fight and you're like 20, all right, yeah, you're just a kid. Like, yeah, all right.
And both people weren't seriously
Yeah.
injured. Like, you didn't kill a guy. He's not, like,
Yeah.
going to have a permanent... He's like,
Even,
he got to...
even if you killed a guy, we'll give you leniency.
But
If
it's
you're still in your 20s.
Yeah. Oh,
But it's
20
like...
you got something planned there, Devon?
23, 24, around that age.
But,
you're-
yeah.
You're still good.
Yes.
I don't know.
But,
I just find it funny that like when you think about it, like we always give like, oh, you can change, but at what point do we just draw that line? You're like, oh, now you can't change.
When it's someone we don't agree with.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I don't like
That's
you.
really what it comes down to.
That's what.
Well,
it
the
feels
crazy
like.
part is we're always changing though. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you can at
If you don't-
34, 35 years old, you can have a
can-
complete change of
Yeah.
mind
If
state.
you
Most
don't-
people don't. They
If you
use-
don't look back and go, like, at something you said 10 years ago or did 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, it could be like a year ago, and you're like, man, I was an idiot. What was I thinking? Oh, it means you didn't grow as a person. Like, if you look back and you're like, I knew exactly
Yeah.
what I was doing, that means you still didn't grow from that point of your life. You're still on the same level. You should always look back and be like, ugh. Kind of like, why did I... Not always, like, negative, but it's like, man, I was dumb. I wish I knew the things I knew now, and I could have handled some situations a lot better. But it's like...
Yeah, you
that
should
means
always
you
be able
grew.
to, in retrospect.
Just like when we did the looking back on old Facebook statuses, it's like you look back and you're like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. Like...